Flexer Nation said, "Hello everyone, I am joined today by Mr. God to see how he felt about this pack as a whole and will be asking him and myself some questions."
Hello. I'm fine, thank you. I've got a cup of coffee and I'm eating a sandwich. Yeah.
What was the most challenging aspect of the mod pack for you?
So I would say it probably had to be the time commitment. And I mean that by there was some there were some things like early on in any Minecraft playthrough, you generally spend multiple hours, 5, 6 hours, on the first day, getting stuff together and progressing and stuff and and doing stuff. But due to this being expert, there was multiple issues with time that we found over the course of the I'm speaking broadly over the course of the whole playthrough, where we quite literally were time gated, as I would call it, where it wasn't a matter of resources, it was a matter of time having to wait for something to be crafted early on, and we only had one machine, for example, that would do something because it was rather expensive to make. Um, and we had to quite literally make so many of this one thing that that machine was tied up, and then we couldn't make anything else. And some people would be like, "Oh, we'll just make a second one." It's like you don't realize how expensive resource wise some items are. When there's a particularly rare resource, we had to use um, like Ecium. I'm sure you remember Ecium, where you have to have a special pickaxe, you have to have a special goggles, and then you have to go to a different dimension and you have to legitimately find it. It can't be auto mined or gathered in any other way, really. Um, we did find a way eventually. Um, yeah, the one in the Nether. We did find a way eventually of kind of getting it using dimensional mineshaft, but um, yeah, so it's really the time commitment of how long something takes. Instead of you signing on and going, oh, it's going to take an hour. That hour turned into 10 hours. There was some days that we pulled legitimately very long days. So, what about you?
Flexer Nation said, "For me it was more so learning a lot of what each mod does, and more often than not the crafting being done with different things than normal.
That is true. Yeah,
The fact that one item took 3 others and those 3 others took 9.
and they were all crafted by different machines. Like, wait, what? You need you need an iron.
It was just a tedious and annoying process to make both the simplest and hardest of stuff while learning."
That's true enough. Yeah, I suppose from my point of view, a lot of these machines are fairly familiar to you. A lot of them are fairly new, right? So to me, it was just like, oh well, okay, it's annoying. I have to use this machine to make this and make this. But to you, it was like, oh my god, I've got to learn how to use this machine before I can even do it. And I think I feel like I took a lot of that guesswork out for you. which may or may not have been a good thing. Sometimes it was a good thing, and sometimes it kind of stunted your own learning. Hmm. I did try my best to teach you when possible. You very rarely asked me directly. If we end up doing another pack, then we can progress on to more stuff. Uh-huh. Question two.
Flexination said, did you have a favorite mod or feature that you found particularly enjoyable?
To this day, since I found them, I would probably say that it's the building gadgets mod. The reason being just what you can do with it. It takes out a lot of the the hard labor, should we say, of doing things. Being able to build in lines, in squares, in platforms. Anybody that watched our um, anybody that watched uh, no, the Sky Factory playthrough, you would have seen me use that quite a bit on multiple videos. It saved me a ridiculous amount of time, a ridiculous amount of clicking. You can do a lot with it, especially if you know how to use it. That's something that I know you didn't know how to do straight off, and you've got used to it a bit more. But yeah, I would say it's the building gadgets mod, the destruction gadget, the copy and paste. All of them would be invaluable to me.
Flexination said, honestly, I am a massive Magic fan. My most enjoyable mod was probably Arse as the whole reganing armor, magic spells that do anything and everything. It's just a overall massive cure. Even if it was a bit hard at times, and knowing we really only did half of the entire mod makes me want to explore it more.
Mm. Yeah, I know. I know in higher versions in the Direwolf pack that I mentioned at the end. I know in that pack, um, ours does have multiple additional mods. It's not just ours. It's like ours plus two or three extra mods that are designed specifically to enhance. There was a lot of stuff that we just never got into because there was no need for us to, and it was complicated enough to do it without. I knew you were trolling me. She thinks I'm not smart enough to realize when she's actually purposely doing stuff, but I do. Yeah.
Flexination said, how did you approach the initial learning curve of the mod pack? Was it overwhelming at first?
Learning curve of the mod pack. It could, yes. I would say it was. Even for me, I mean, I'm an experienced modded Minecraft player. I've played dozens of packs, and I've dabbled with nearly every mod that we have encountered to some degree. So nothing was particularly brand new to me. Um, there was definitely some learning curves. having to do stuff on mods that I've never normally done. Particularly Nature's Aura was one of them. Normally, you do the Nature's Aura stuff. You get to the certain point where you use all that stuff, and then that's it. On most kitchen style packs, there's not a lot of integration between mods. They generally are self-contained. So if you want to do Nature's Aura, you just do Nature's Aura stuff. To get to the best Nature's Aura stuff, you have to use Nature's Aura. On this pack, you had to, as we already talked about, you have to have several different things all interconnected, and you have to like having automated systems for mechanics that you've never had to before. There was definitely a learning curve early on when we realized just how complicated it was. Like sticks, you just couldn't make sticks. You had to go in, one of the most basic resources in the game, wood to sticks. You had to have a special thing for it, or a special tool for it, or whatever. There was a bit of a learning curve.
Flexer Nation said, "Honestly, I over-prepared for everything. I didn't know what to expect, so I took anything and everything, noticing the tiniest and biggest changes in most things. It was very overwhelming, not just at first but the entire time. Though as time went on I found that doing something the first time was always bad, and then more options to do it easier the next time were opened up. For you're a learning curve, but not as hard as I thought it was going to be."
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I didn't prepare really at all. We could have, with the fact that I know how we played Sky Factory and that we went and did everything, I should have really been more prepared for looking at stuff in the future and realizing just how much of certain stuff we needed. But it's nearly impossible to. We would have to like look and go, oh, we're going to get these mastery tokens, these shards at the end, and they require this, that requires this, that requires this, that requires this, that requires this. Looking through all of that, we would have spent a whole week just looking through the recipes. That's mainly why I didn't really look at anything in advance, because it would have taken a week to look through everything. I mean, even you fell short on multiple things that you didn't realize we needed. Even though you prepared a lot and we had a lot of stuff, there was still things that we just never came across, like apples. We needed something stupid like 16,000 apples at the end, I think it was, and we didn't have anywhere near that. We had a couple of thousand. Berries, we needed 15,000 of each. We only had like 8,000. There was all sorts of things, all of which was simple to solve, but botany pots and stuff long term were a pain in the ass to make. But yeah, I agree. Yeah, sure.
Flexer Nation said, "What strategies did you find most effective for surviving and thriving in the mod pack?"
It would have to be probably concentrating on what I had in front of me first. Um, I didn't really plan ahead for a lot of stuff. Um, I tend to look at one shard, or for example, at the end we were doing multiple shards at once. I would look at one thing and I would aim at that thing, and I would make the one item that I had to make. Well, I know that yours was different. You tended to, look at stuff a bit further ahead than me, and you kind of go, "Oh, I need all of this, and I need all of this, and I need all of this." To me, it didn't really matter until I got to that point. which is kind of a bad thing in a way, because I'd get to that one thing and then realize it was going to take me a week to get all those materials together. But it's definitely a way of managing yourself easier. You don't have to focus on 100 things at once, just the one thing that's in front of you. I set my mind to a task and I went for it. And I felt like it did me fairly well. A lot of time I would make more progress than you would by doing that strategy, because you would build up stuff over the course of a week, while I would get and just go, bosh, there's one, bosh, there's two, bosh, there's three. Well, you would still be doing the first one because you're trying to do all of it at once.
Flexer Nation said, I personally jumped from task to task as things were gate locked or time gated, often going for the first thing I saw, no matter how hard or easy it was, often screwing myself over. Doing so, I think looking at all available options would have helped me more rather than going for the first thing I saw and, like you, focus on one thing instead of 20.
It did make me laugh. There was a few a few times that made me laugh with that, where you went to create something, and if you anybody that knows any expert pack, there's often multiple ways of doing the exact same item. Most of the time, it involves normally create and something else. A lot of the time, you would look at something and go, "I need to do this," and it used this specific machine that we didn't even have set up. And then you realize after I pointed it out that there was like a much simpler way of doing it that didn't require that complex machine. I remember there was one time where you did something and you made like a ridiculous amount of one thing, and I'm like, if you'd have done it this way, it would have taken you there's like 4 times less items. Yeah, there was quite literally, if you look up like crafting tables and stuff, there's often multiple ways of doing it. Like even crafter tier ones from RF Tools Utility, you can make it using RAM chips or advanced RAM chips, and it can be done either in a create automated crafter or just a standard crafting window. It was the difference. But yeah. Oh, number 5.
Flexer Nation said, were there any specific moments or achievements that stood out to you?
Moments or achievements. When we got the refined system up and running was the biggest kind of achievement for me, because I know just how powerful having a digitalized central computer system is on this game. Having access to everything under one control panel, um, having the ability to auto craft via it, having the ability to have mass amounts of storage in that said item block, and just having the freedom to kind of go, okay, I need this pattern, this pattern, this pattern, and this pattern, and you program it all and then set it going, and it will just create everything for you. That was a momentous achievement in my eyes, getting that done, and it was very hard on this pack to do that. It was not designed easily to do that. If you look at the quest setup under gates, you don't get access to refined storage automation until like 3/4 of the way down, and you don't get digital storage, which is on a completely different path, until the same time. But you have to go down 2 different paths, path A or path B, and they're on 2 different paths to get there to do the same thing. Um, so you could kind of have automation, but not have the storage side of things. But yeah, I would say it was refined.
Flexer Nation said, honestly, yeah, there were some things like the laser drill, the refined storage system, that just took so many other things and so long to do that it gate locked us multiple times. Near the last step that really forced us to shove past it and gave me a sense of accomplishment.
Yeah, I know the laser drills were a big one for you. That took a lot of time and effort. And then after we got the automated system set up, it was just a matter of click, 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 and it'd be done in 5 minutes. It is ridiculous how much time it saves. Yep.
Flexer Nation said, did you encounter any bugs or issues that impacted your gameplay?
Oh, hell yeah. That's a big one. So I started the pack off with the intention of recording like Tina does. I was using the same settings as Tina and got it all set up and ready to go. I had pre-planned stuff. I had folders set up. I had editing software done. I've never really edited videos, but I got the same software. I was trying to learn it. I was watching YouTube videos on how to do it. I'm a pretty technical guy, so that kind of stuff is second nature to me. And the first kind of issues that I was encountering was my computer just really wouldn't run both at the same time. And I think it was half and half between the game and the actual recording software. And then later down the road, we encountered multiple issues with the pack, like when we had we had dozens and dozens of armor stands that we didn't know at the time. Even I didn't know this, and again, I've been playing Minecraft for a long time. I didn't know that armor stands are considered entities, and any enchanted armor is also considered to be like kind of an entity. Entities of that scale with that many in such a confined space causes lag, and a severe amount at that. We thought it was to do with our storage because it happened at the same time, and it turns out it wasn't anything to do with that at all. And after we removed them, it fixed itself. There was a couple of issues like that down the road. There was another one, I can't remember what that was caused from. We end up having to try and spread stuff out and move stuff to try and spread the load out. We made the base way too big, which was also causing lag issues, in my opinion. We had multiple different dimensions and stuff loaded. The server map file, the world file of this whole playthrough was in the 5 to 6 gigabyte range, which is very big in terms. I've played my own world before, been on it for for months, doing stuff on and off, explored a lot more than we have on here, and I've never broken like a gig. So this was crazy. But yeah, there's been multiple issues over the time, and it did the recording thing really kind of upset me early on because I really wanted to do it. I think it was like the first 5 or 6 episodes I was trying to record, and I had to stop. In a sense, I'm kind of glad I did because I think it prolonged my enjoyment of the pack. I got to enjoy it rather than just having to record. Um, yeah.
Flexer Nation said, honestly, more than I can remember starting the pack, I couldn't even move due to lag, so we troubleshot that. Then my items in my hotbar and inventory magically vanished, sometimes turning into other items, while also crashing every few hours despite using different clients and the server overall just lagging and crashing. It forced me to limit myself to keep everything to a me. Mum.
Yeah, I remember to clarify for anybody else, the initial lag and issues that you had was, I think, half and half between you were running on quite low amounts of memory. You were only running on like 8 gigs when you started. I think it was, or 16 gigs, and running Windows 11. Running Windows 11 on this version of, essentially, we're running a very old version of Minecraft, and the Java version that this is based on was not built for Windows 10, Windows 11. It wasn't even made when that was out. You know, these operating systems were brand new in terms of that, so they've never been designed to run on it. Even I had to switch Minecraft clients using multi-MC rather than CurseForge, and that has seemed to have helped. But like, I'm on Windows 10, and I can run this game for multiple hours and not crash, or she can only run it for a couple of hours and she still crashes even now. So we upgraded her RAM to double her RAM, and I believe that's helped quite a bit in everything, including editing, video editing, and all sorts of stuff, right? Yeah, but it's always been a bit of an issue. I said I don't crash anymore, really, not unless it's something server side. But generally, if we crash, it's not the server that crashes. It does happen, but I would like to blame the hosting, but I believe it's honestly the specific pack that we are playing.
Flexer Nation said, "How did you manage your resources and inventory with the added complexity of the mods?"
The backpack and Danknull were some of my first items that I really wanted to get. I've used both the Danknull and the backpacks in the past. I know how powerful they can be. With the backpack mod, you can have multiple stack upgrades, so you can fit multiple things that shouldn't stack in one slot. There's deposit upgrades. There's a feeding upgrade. There's crafting upgrades. There's a smelting upgrade. There's pickup upgrades, deposit upgrades. You can set the backpack settings to keep all of the specific lines as like a no sort. You can tell it that that item goes into that. If you were to look at my my backpack, in fact, I'll do a screenshot and send it to Tina so you can see it. She can bring it up for you. You'll see that in my backpack, I have loads of different tools. Those are all like saved slots where they go back into that same slot. And that's kind of how I managed it early on. And the Dank Null was obviously a big one as well. We had to upgrade those obviously throughout the pack, and they got better and better. But being able to hold all your building materials in there and mining without worrying about all the stuff on the ground was a big one as well. But yeah.
Flexer Nation said, "Honestly, backpacks and nulls, both are super good in their own ways. Holding more than the INV itself and more in each stack made it almost a necessity with added quality of life."
Yeah, totally. They're so good. I think even if we played a different pack and it didn't have those mods, it would be worth trying to add them to the pack. It helps so much. Seven 7.5. I don't know. Why are you like sitting halfway through yours? I honestly couldn't remember how to jump on the chair then. Let's right click. There we go. Yeah.
Flexer Nation said, "What did you think of the mod pack's balance between challenge and reward?"
Early on, most rewards tended to be food based. Very early, it was a lot of food. So much so we never really worried about food. If you were to go back into the base as it were now, assuming that you could actually get to the chest, there was a chest inside the door that had loads of different food items. There's a food mod on this game, on this pack, that has different qualities of food. If you actually press E and look at your own inventory, there's a button to look at your food values. I actually don't know if you
I
know about
think
that.
early game it was really helpful. Gave us certain items like food or armor that helped with survival without breaking the game as a whole. Mid game honestly didn't help that much.
Anyway, as I was saying, yeah, so um, yeah, early on there was a lot of food which didn't really help, but at the end, towards the end, some of the rewards were quite overpowered. There was a specific item called a quantum entangle porter. Most of the very end rewards for specific things, the rewards were quite literally one of those entangle porters, and nearly every one of them had it. I think we had over a dozen of them at the end, and you only need, for anybody that doesn't know, an entangle porter allows you to transport items, energy, fluids, gases between the two. So you can have one in a completely different dimension and have it connected to another one back at your base and transport items or fluids or whatever between them. And having access to essentially wireless power and having access to wireless item transfer um, is very overpowered. Um, and we had so many of them at the end, it was ridiculous. So early on it was all food, which we ended up stopping using. We ended up having a environmental block in the base that gives us permanent hunger, permanent regen, permanent hunger, so we never need to eat in the base at all, ever. So all the food was completely pointless. We ended up getting an infinite food item eventually from Britannia, which again made it completely useless. So we got loads of food in the base that just do nothing. And then in the end, we got loads of entangle porters, which we never ended up using half of them, but they are very, very overpowered. So it was a weird one. Very overpowered towards the end. Nothing particularly useful at the end, other than that.
Flexer Nation said, "Mid-game was not that helpful, gave us a thing here and there but overall could be balanced more, where endgame gave us pretty much needed items that were extremely hard to make. Why? Thought the right prep to do so was really the most helpful if you ask me. Sorry for the interruption, I hit enter by mistake."
And don't get me wrong, they were very hard to make, and it was nice to have them. But I don't feel like it was very balanced at the end. No. Helpful, just not balanced. It could have given us a load of other items that would have been helpful but not overpowered. It could have given us a specific crafting item that it knew we needed, like mechanism circuits or something like that, capacitors and various other stuff from Enigmatica. any of those would have been quite handy to have because they were still a crafting process, but nowhere near as advanced as what an entangle porter is.
Flexor Nation said, were there any mods you found particularly difficult to integrate or use effectively?
Towards towards the end, yeah, the as we've talked about in the episode, um, the Mattercraft stuff was a bit of a pain. The pressure chambers were a bit of a pain, and the Nature's Aura setups were extremely painful. There was one specific thing on the Nature's Aura setup. I can't remember, something of the wild, Ritual of the Forest, sorry, where you have like, I think it's 8 pedestals, is 8 or 12, and you have the item in the middle. You have to grow a tree, and around that tree has to be a line of gold dust in a very specific pattern. I found ways to make the gold dust, put it on the ground, but for some reason, it just didn't want to play. No matter what I used, no matter what I tried, it never really worked correctly. It was always a pain. It would work for 3 or 4 crafts, and then it would stop. So yeah, like trying to automate and integrate, though, like Nature's Aura was very painful, and I never really got it to do it properly. Um, Most of the others I got eventually. Pneumaticraft, for the pressure chambers, we did find out the secret, um, using a very simple thing, just modular routers. Modular routers are also very powerful. They're one of my favorite mods, I would have to say.
Flexor Nation said, Pressurecraft got screwed over more than once. As did Nature's Aura. In the end we got most of it, but overall it was just no. Pedestals also was something we didn't use due to other options being available and pedestals as a whole being not that great. Create we got more than half of automated and integrated, but the other half, while doable, was just not worth it to be honest. Tetra we also used at the start, but kinda left it off there, not really using it besides for tools and stuff.
Oh yeah, wow. Yeah, Astral wasn't automated until after we got the big machine. Could it have been automated? Maybe. But we never used enough of it to really warrant it. I know there was some crafts that did. There was some ways that we actually found that were better ways of using those, like R's. I had an R's set up for doing crafts. But it turned out that the easier way to do it was honestly just to use hoppers. Just put a stack of the items in the hoppers and let it go, which is what Tina found out. Yeah, there was definitely other ways. XNet was a pain in the ass. XNet is normally a very good system, but in this pack there was just some things it just didn't like doing. There was some weird shit going on. I had loads of problems with XNet on Nature's Aura. I couldn't get it set up right. Every time it was configured correctly, but it just did not want to work. I don't know if it was a bug, something to do with the integration between those two mods. I don't know what it was, but I've never seen XNet act that way before. I've used it a few times. But yeah.
Flexor Nation said, did you have any memorable or funny moments that happened during your gameplay?
Ugh. Memorable or funny? don't know if there was anything particularly like hilarious that happened. There was most memorable moments where you going off on using magic and like destroying half the base, um, using magic to delete something, um, and then not realizing that that magic spell traveled like 30 blocks and destroyed something else. I made a few cosmetic things um, that literally got like ripped apart because you were using spells and not looking where they were going. There was, I mean, the funny thing to me is there's much better ways of destroying stuff. Um, like I know we made the big tree and we had to destroy it. Um, my way was to use, the destruction gadget that can do like a 16 by 16 by 16, while Muggins there was sitting there trying to vein mine it, and it's like the problem with vein mining it is it had like 100 different block types in it, and vein mining only works on a single block type when you do it. So it would have taken you forever to do it. My way took like 5 minutes. Um, I was always doing stuff the more organized, faster way, while Tina's way was normally the I don't know how to do it a better way, so I'm just doing it this way. But yeah, memorable moment. Not so much really. I mean, obviously, getting finishing certain things was memorable, and getting stuff up and running was memorable. Making sure that the fission reactor didn't blow up was kind of memorable. We were kind of both worried about that because we'd never really. You'd definitely never done it, and I've done it before, but it didn't end well last time I did it. There was a few kind of issues.
Flexer Nation said, "Plenty. I loved to troll Mr. God even if he got mad at me. The Blaze Blood was a running joke in the series where Mr. God said we only needed 16 buckets for a craft, so for the rest F the series whenever we used Blaze Blood. I said 16 buckets by the way, and overall just spending time together with Mr. God was both fun and enjoyable, and I DK about him, but I'll remember that for a VE. Right long time."
Probably forget it. Hmm. What's it you to say? It's always. I mean, I personally don't like playing any game on my own. If I have a choice, I will always play with people. I would never have done as much as I did. Um, I'm not going to lie. Towards the end, I was struggling. Um, and some people may wonder why we went as far as we did, and the simple answer is she's fucking crazy and demanded that we do it. And if I didn't stick around and help, she would have done it without me, and it would have taken her 10 times the longer to do it. So in the case of making sure that she didn't spend 5 years trying to do it, it was in best interest for me to help out. It's what friends do, right? They stick around when it's hard. So yeah, I mean, towards the end was rough. I'm going to be honest, but now it's over. There was some good times. Yes.
Flexer Nation said, "What changes or improvements would you like to see in future versions of this mod pack?"
If it's specifically to do with expert, um, there was definitely some very unnecessary things I know expert is supposed to be more challenging. I know it's supposed to be harder, but there's a difference between making it harder and making it pointlessly tedious for no fucking reason. And that, to me, is what I would change. I would try and make it less tedious and more potentially more complicated is fine. Having a 5-step process to make something is all well and dandy, but having to make 10 of the same item to turn into one item is just needlessly pointless. There was no real logic around some of those things. There was some tools like building gadgets and stuff that were very locked behind stuff. They're like, understandably, the building gadgets mining laser. Normally a very good tool to have. It's very good for mining. It's upgradable, but it doesn't come without its problems. You still need to have the ability to charge it with power. So you need energy. The upgrades are normally expensive. Even on vanilla, those upgrades are quite expensive sometimes. On this pack, it was impossible. We only ever made it to do the pack. We only ever made it to finish the pack. It was never actually crafted of our own volition to do something with it. We never actually used the mining laser, even though it's a very good item. And it's because it was so complicated to make. It was it was ridiculous how many steps you had to go through. And I know for a fact that Astral Sorcery is nowhere near as complicated as what it was on here. There was several mods that we could have probably had more fun with and played with more if they weren't quite so tedious to do. Yeah.
Flexer Nation said, honestly, overall less bugs, and instead of changing crafting recipes, change the way certain machines behave / work if / when possible, and for sure even as a expert pack, king it a tad less tedious. A bit less of a chore for some things, and have us explore some of the mods a bit more, because some of the items we had to craft and never used once.
Yeah. What did you say you there? No, I mean I agree. I mean, as I said, there was definitely some that we just didn't use. We learned as we went that certain mods and one mining like manually mining is normally quite a big thing in most packs until you get to like mid late game. We started using bees fairly early on, and bees pretty much made every resource that we needed eventually. There was practically no reason to do anything else. There was only some resources that were very rare to get that we didn't have to, but I mean, bees overall, I think, were quite overpowered, I have to say. And they run 24/7, and they don't require any special upkeep. You set them up, you leave them, you let them go, and that was legitimately it. Yes, they were a little bit tedious to set up originally, but once you got to the hives, even the tier 1 hive was practically infinite resources.
Flexer Nation said, how did the mod pack compare to other Minecraft experiences you've had?
I've played a few different mod packs. I've played a couple of different Skyblocks. I've played quite a few kitchen sink style packs. I've played some very big packs, like all the mods that's had some stuff. I've played really old packs that some people might have heard of, like Tech It and various other stuff like that. That had some really cool mechanics and kind of challenges involved. stuff like I think it was Tech. It had it was a skyblock island, but you spawned on an island, but then there was like a temple nearby you could build to, and the temple had actual challenges that you had to do, and you had to hand in. So you had to get a certain amount of energy, and you had to legitimately pour the energy into the block that was already there, and that is then what gave you the achievement. Um, there's some like nice mechanics in those kind of things. There wasn't really anything like that on here. It was you do the stuff, you follow the path, and we were kind of pushed to the way. Instead of exploring the mods on our own, we were pushed in a very specific path um, because we had to by necessity. So I'm used to more free run packs where you can build what you want in whatever order you want. You can rush to a specific thing, or you can leave it until later. If you want to rush to the best armor in the game, you can. Um, there is, 100 different ways of doing that kind of stuff. Most packs power and stuff is struggled early on, but then you get into something very easily, and then all of a sudden it's not an issue anymore. So this pack definitely required us to step up in stages because of it being expert. I've not really played expert before, although I know of it and I know how hard it can be. Greg Tech, for example, is very, very hard and complicated. It's kind of comparable to likes of Greg Tech and various other stuff, but um, yeah, it's definitely not a kitchen sink, that's for sure. The main game, I believe, it's just standard Enigmatica, no expert, I believe, is kitchen sink.
Flexer Nation said, "My only other personal experience with modded Minecraft is Sky Factory 4, but I have watched plenty and honestly it fell short for me. There weren't too many dimensions to explore. No extra challenges other than spending extra time making items, not that many bosses. It was prettier and had more passive mobs, but it could have so much more, and I will admit the constant bugs did ruin it a bit for me."
Mm.
Final question. Would you recommend this mod pack to others? Why or why not?
So that's kind of a loaded question in a way, considering we know how many bugs and stuff there is on this pack. Now, some of those bugs may not appear to everybody. It may have been because we're running on a server. It may have been because we didn't have enough RAM allocated to it. It could have been 100 different things. The reason we played this specific version and this specific pack was because the global consensus on platforms like Reddit and stuff of what packs to do if you wanted a hard pack was Enigmatica 6 Expert was the better of them. There was another one, I think it was Enigmatica 2 was highly recommended as well, but we number 2 was on the same version of Minecraft as Sky Factory was, and we really wanted to have a slight upgrade in Minecraft tech, should we say, where there's different things are built. There's like these massive cave systems and various other stuff. So that in the latest version of Minecraft, we wanted to try and get more towards that than we did back to what we were. So would I recommend it? Probably yes. But if you're playing on your own, I would say you're better off probably playing one of the higher versions rather than 6. I believe the others have all, not necessarily all of them, but I know like what some of the latest Ignimaticas have got expert enabled. You can. What's good? One thing I do like about this pack is you can actually switch between expert and non-expert. all it really does is changes the recipes of stuff. It does require you to like restart your game, but you can download just Enigmatica 6 and play expert, and it will like convert your install to expert, and then you can swap it back. We actually had a bit of a scare at one point when Tina believed that we were still on the normal version, not the expert version. Bear in mind, I'm the one that installed the bloody thing, so I know what version we were on. She tried physically running the command to change, which could have been absolute catastrophic because she did it. I know, yeah, I know you tried, or you did run it. Doing that on a server while you're playing it and stuff, I had no idea how it would react, because it can't download, so the server is not going to download a new pack for you. Yeah, it was that was a bit of things. It could have quite legitimately ruined the playthrough, and we'd have had to start again. The backup systems never really worked on this. You can run a manual backup, but the automatic backup doesn't seem to work very well. I don't know if that's the hosting or that's this. We never had the problem with the backups on Sky Factory, and that was on the same hosting, so I don't know. I'm inclined to think it's the pack, but yes, so I would recommend it, but I would potentially recommend playing the higher version. Maybe, unless you're really confident that you can do, unless you're a seasoned Minecraft player, I probably wouldn't go for expert. Unless you're looking for a real big challenge. Maybe play through the game normally. You have access to the same mods, the same setups, same stuff. And if you really wanted to try a challenge, give it a year and then try it again, but on expert. You know, we only did expert because Tina wanted something that was hard and had some challenge to it. Kitchen sink packs don't really. So yeah, I would.
Flexer Nation said, honestly no, I would recommend the regular 6-pack, not expert. The bugs and the overall tedious nature of the pack made it more of a chore than a fun game. It's a good pack with OT to do and explore, and I don't have a massive issue with many things in it. But if you're looking for a fun time, play the regular 6 or a higher version, and if you're looking for a challenge, there are other packs that offer better and more challenges.
Yeah, that's true enough. I mean, I did struggle to find a challenging pack that we could play together. Most of them have a very specific theme involved that we didn't particularly want to do. Or, well, not necessarily that we didn't want to do. That's a lie. But it's more of a we had, you know, choice A, B, C, D, and E, and we chose this one as the most likely option. It had its ups and downs. Definitely got issues. I've never had lag on a pack like this. I've run packs with a lot more mods than this before on my own system and never had a problem. And this is on a server. We're on a server right now, a dedicated server, hosted, and in between me and Tina, I'm in the UK, she's in America, and yeah, I mean, we even upgraded the RAM, which I don't think the pack is set to run correctly. Even now, it still only shows it running about 6 gigs, even though we've got 10 allocated. I don't know if that's because if we reinstalled it, maybe it would work, but it was a bit too late to do that. Yeah, that's I would agree, I guess, in general. There might be other options for you if you're looking for something fun, not necessarily a challenge. If you're looking for something really challenging, then I'm sure there's something else. Greg Tech would probably be a preferred option for challenge. You are going to hate yourself if you play that though. Mm. Don't know. Son of a bitch. You would do that when I wasn't in creative. Nah. Everybody know who the good guy is in this. Where the hell did it teleport me? I was like outside the base somewhere. Weird. Yeah, probably. Yeah, the OC spawn. Yeah, would have been the original. Ironically, we didn't really move that far from the spawn. it's that's one of my. I'm going to be honest. One of my regrets when we started was we should have found a place to put down the base, the main base, very early, and it took us way too long to do that. Way too long. I think it was like 3 or 4 episodes before we actually found the location to go, if not enough more. Yeah, we did. We spent an awful lot. The first couple episodes were, in my opinion, very boring because of the amount of traveling and stuff we did. We could have and should have spent less time doing that and just jumped in and made a base this early. Have you found the manta thing? Oh, nice. Well, that question and answer list was brought to you by ChatGPT, mainly because Tina was too lazy. She was going to compile a list, and she was uh, she was busy being a hooker on the corner, every day. But yeah, no, I very quickly. The intention was for to use that list and modify it to actually make a little bit more sense. But it was actually pretty decent. There was a few questions that were a little bit thing, but yeah, don't at you. Yeah, but yeah, it's was good. Shard. You just crashed the server, didn't you?
Flexer Nation said, I didn't do anything actually. I was about to.
Oh,
But then
okay.
the server crashed. Best timing.
Yeah, it was actually. Yeah, it actually crashed. Removing entities, ticking entities. It didn't like something.
Thanks for watching everyone and joining us, and we'll catch you in the Flex One. Show us out, Mr. God.
Goodbye again, everybody, and hopefully we'll see you in the next pack once we decide what it is. It will probably be a while before we do one, month, 2 months before we start, then however long it will be before the episodes are released. Hopefully, we can convince Tina to release them a little bit quicker this time around.
Here's hoping.
Yeah.
Bye.
I love how TTS can do that, but it can't say like the and that. I said bye. I've said bye 5 times. Goodbye, you weirdos.